I'm really fascinated by the previous presenters, especially defining about the tribal ecology, and also a friend from Pakistan talking about the climate change and the resilience, the climate justice work which we are all engaged in. It's fantastic, very much motivating for the work that I'm doing now. Is my video, is my slide uh, visible for everyone? Am I doing it good? All right.
Yes, we can see. That's even better. Yes.
So yeah, my presentation is about ecological sustainability and the resilience of the Buddhist community. Most often we tend to look India quite focused towards the north. And I'm glad that one of our colleagues from Mizoram, from the northeast, talking about the issues of Mizoram, and also Hugh, one of our friends, who also talked about Jharkhand. So the moment we talk about India, the first focus comes is the North India. The North India always dominates the whole geography of India. And in our literature, we usually have these five types of civilization. So we tend to start with what we call as the river valley civilization, and we have the word called Marudam. We call it in Tamil as Marudam, and we have the mountainous civilization, which we call as Kurunji, and then the forest is called as the Mullai, and then we have the Naidal as the seashore, and we have the Palay as the desert. So these are the five classifications that we have in our Tamil literature, which defines these locales. And I also see the colonial and the post-colonial and the process of Hinduization also had, in a way, justified the definition of what we call as the tribal, and also the terms like Adivasi. So adjacent to that, we have terms like Dalits. The word Dalit also means broken community. And this broken community has a history. And unfortunately, the word Dalit means broken, which means that you don't have a history. You are a broken people. And my presentation is closely connected to this resilience of this Buddhist community, because I'm connecting the Buddhist community with that of the Dalit community. And it is the Dalit community which became the untouchable community. And then the untouchable community became the fifth classification of what we call as the Varna system, the graded inequality that the Hindu system follows in India. So I had made a couple of presentations in the previous SASA conference about the relationship between the Buddhist community and the Dalit community, and how the temples were converted, the Buddhist temples were converted to the Hindu temple. And there are lots of archaeological studies, and also my colleagues are here. David Blundell is here, and we have a wonderful archaeologist by the name Professor Dayalan, who had worked tremendously on this subject, identifying and marking the GIS through different Buddhist sites of South India. Now, when we see South India, we have to see in several dimensions. One in terms of the environment sustainability, and then the second one is towards social justice. So these two are interlinked, and the third one is the historical significance of South India. And it is South India that has been a harbinger of taking the whole voyage or the treasure of Buddhism towards the Southeast Asian countries, such as one could claim Sri Lanka and Malaysia, Indonesia, and China, for that matter, China, Japan, South Korea, and so on. And we have beautiful such archaeological sites which has the Tamil Brahmi scripts, which has been engraved in Cambodia and Vietnam as well. So there's lots to share from the South Indian perspective. And the temples that I'm showing here, these are very important temples. This is the first one is the Tanjore temple, and then the Tiruvannamalai temple, and the third one is the Kanchipuram temple. The Tanjore temple is very much unique. It represents the Buddha Charita, life history of the Buddha. The Tiruvannamalai temple resembles the five mandala architecture of Buddhism. And Kanchipuram is a very important place, because that's a place where Master Shuangzan, Faxian, and great scholars have paid their tributes. And this temple also has got beautiful architectures, such as like the Yali and also the five mandalas, and also the Paticha Samutpada, the dependent origination. All these were being brought by the influence of the Mahayana and Vajrayana. And Vajrayanas were the one who came with a revolutionary idea of representing with images. So when we were trying to work closely with these archaeological sites, we also came to know that there is a huge amount of influence with the local communities, especially with the Dalit community. But unfortunately, during the 11th and 15th century, these important Buddhist temples that I have quoted, there are so many, I've just placed three, have been converted as Hindu temples. And not only that, the statues inside the temples were being thrown out. And most often the temples, the statues that we have the tradition that we break the nose of any statue we don't worship. So that's one easiest way of humiliating the local population. And we have plenty of such statues that are lying in the riverbeds, in the ponds. So people, in order to protect these statues, some of the Buddhist community, what they did is, in order to protect these statues, they also put that, or they buried that in their fields. Some they put that in the ponds so that it doesn't get destroyed. So these are the important statues which are there. The topmost left, it's a Burmese statue. So there has been a very good relationship with the Burmese traders and with that of the South Indian community. And this belongs to the 9th and 10th century. And then we have plenty of other statues that I have displayed here. They are from Thailand and Cambodia as well. And this is one of the beautiful show temple which we have. It's called the Mahabalipuram temple. And this is a beautiful Pallava architecture temple that we have in a place called Mahabalipuram, which is like 50 kilometers from Chennai. And this is a Pallava architecture, which belongs to the 6th century. So between the 6th and the 9th century, we had a tremendous booming of architecture. So the whole architectural history, if we see, of South India is largely influenced by the Pallava architecture, the Chola architecture, the Pandya architecture, and the Chalukya architecture. And then later on in the 15th century, the 14th, 15th centuries saw the influence of the Vijayanagara's architecture. So as such, Vijayanagara's architecture is more in terms of improvisation of what we saw the later Chola's architecture. And this is a very important temple. It's called the Taradevi Amman temple, which is now called as the Kamakshi temple. So it's a very important temple for the Buddhist community, especially for the women. It's one of this kind that we don't have in India, a bhikkhuni temple or a temple which is meant for the Buddhist nuns. So this is a very important temple which we have in a place called Kanchipuram. And now it is called as the Kamakshi temple. And coming back to the ecological aspect, we also see a tremendous amount of garbage waste that we see in the peripheries of the temples. And this has been a big concern for many of us, especially from the interreligious background. So we had this conference in the year 2011 to talk about the challenges that is imposed by climate change and how different religious groups can come together, work together in addressing this issue, especially maintaining the garbages of the temple. And also, I was trying to bring the alternatives for the nuclear power plants. And nuclear power plants, I'm glad that our colleague from Pakistan was kind enough and open enough to talk about the problems of Pakistan. But here I have to censor myself. I have to limit myself, and since we are in Zoom, I'm not able to express many things. But yes, we have a big state-funded nuclear power plants, which is destroying the ecology, especially the coastal economy. And so there are movements which are challenging these nuclear power plants and the programs, the nuclear energy programs run by the government of India. But at the same time, we also felt that there needs to be a movement or an organization that that should talk about the alternatives for nuclear power plants. So one of the campaigns that we did was to develop solar-based technologies that could address as an alternate. And also we did a study visiting different temple sites where garbage management is very poor, and kind of like we developed lots of awareness programs in talking about how to maintain what is called as the zero waste management concept, and also develop those medicinal plants which is useful for the temples. So these are all the wastages that we have during the festivals. And we came with a new initiative of creating what we call as the sustainable ecology, through which we also wanted to address the rich Buddhist heritage of South India. So we started with a campaign through some of our friends in the International Network of Engaged Buddhists, in which I'm one of the board members. And we all came together and we developed an ideal system of building a temple, and how this temple can have the confluence of ecology, social justice, and at the same time talk about the Buddhist values and principles. So the first to launch or take the leadership was China. China was having a huge amount of resource, so they developed a beautiful temple in Shandong province. It's a temple called Zhengzhou, and they created a huge solar park for their temple. And this whole temple is run by the solar power. And not only that, the temple also gives the excess electricity produced to the state, through which they also derive resources. And this is another project that we did in Thailand, in a place called Chonburi. So in Chonburi, we started this project in 2012 to develop an ecological temple, which uses locally available resources with environment-friendly technologies. So this we started in 2012, and now it's completed. And we also had small initiatives in Myanmar with the use of bamboo technology. And then we came with an establishment as a project in South India. So this is the salient feature that we are proposing. In Tamil Nadu, we don't have as such a Buddhist temple, because most of the Buddhist temple, as I said, that have been converted as either as a Shaivite temple or a Vaishnavite temple. And we wanted a temple that that has the resemblance of the traditional architecture, the Dravidian architecture that I was talking about, especially of the Pallava architecture. And at the same time, we wanted to use those materials which are eco-friendly. So these are the two important components. And not only that, the Buddhist community, which apparently became the untouchable community, or now the so-called the Dalit community, has been embracing Buddhism. And there's a huge amount of population that has been embracing Buddhism, coming out of Hinduism, especially from the Dalit community. So they don't have a temple. There is no scope for them to teach the spiritual values of the Buddhism. So that's one of the reasons why we were advocating for a Buddhist temple. And this is the model that we have proposed for the Eco Temple community. It's a design which has different components, like one of the components that we also talked about is business component, how the sustainability factor works, how we can sustain the temple. That's one of the biggest challenges, because what happens is most of the temples that we see are run by donations. And we wanted to also create a business out of it, so that the temple can run in its own. So there is also a self-sustainability model that has been incorporated in this whole structure. And of course, the architecture will be based upon the Dravidian architecture, and the materials that will be used will be based upon the eco-friendly technologies. And this is one of the architecture, very popular in among the Buddhist community of India. We have three kinds of architecture. We have the Vihara, we have the Chaitya, and we have the Stupa. The one that we have proposed here is the Stupa. Stupa is, it resonates impermanence. This is a very important teaching of Buddhism, and this is one thing which we thought we should develop in Tamil Nadu. And this is our ancient architecture, the Buddhist architecture. The topmost, you have the five kalasas. The kalasas represents the five aggregates, and then underneath you have the boat upside, the upside version of the boat. It resonates the teachings, the Buddhist parable, which is very popular in the canonical inscriptions. So this is one of the finest examples that we have. So this will be the four sides of the stupa. And we, for construction, we need, of course, we need materials. And we came with this concept called CSEB. And it's called the compressed stabilized earth blocks. This is something which was, this technology was invented by the Orville under the Earth Institute in the early 1980s. Based upon this technology, it's very interesting that this particular brick doesn't invest on what we call as the firewoods. So we don't have to use firewoods. We don't have to burn the bricks. We have to just compress these blocks, and we just have to sun dry it. So it's one of the green sustainable livelihood initiative that we have started. And this is at the initial stage, we were very much reluctant because we wanted to see models where these bricks have been used for construction, and also construction that has, like, 3 to 4 floors at least. And also we were having the apprehension of understanding its tolerance level about the earthquake, whether it can tolerate 7 Richter scale or the 7.5 Richter scale, and what would be the capacity of withstanding tremors. So these are the thoughts that we were, which was running for us. But when we visited few of the important project sites, we were convinced that this is possible. So this is the material which we use for producing the bricks is from the locally available resources. We don't use topsoils, we use subsoil, which means that we don't destroy the agricultural land. So this is very, very important, that there is a great amount of overexploitation of agrarian lands in Tamil Nadu. And not only that, there is a big sand mafia also, which is happening in India, especially in the coastal economy, that the sand mafia controls the whole sand business. So we wanted to kind of produce alternatives through the CSEB technology. So I'm running over the slide a bit. And how we develop this project is also to support the poor Dalit community, especially women. So when we were working closely with the human rights organization, we also came across the fact that there are bonded laborers, and there were women who were largely victims of bonded labor. And during the time of pandemic, I would say there is the other side of pandemic is, it's like the blessing in disguise, that many people lost jobs, which also give a scope for us to prevent bonded labor, because all the bonded laborers have to come back to their villages. And we quickly were able to adopt close to about 140 women. And we developed a training program for these 140 women who were victims of bonded labor to establish this project called the CSEB, by the name Green Sustainable Livelihood. So this is how we started this project. This is the brick making machine. And we can see our women, our beneficiaries, preparing these bricks in a place called Marakanam. Marakanam is, again, it's like 80 kilometers south of Chennai. And each machine can produce close to about some 700 to 800 bricks per day. So we have close to about 10 machines, and every day they are producing bricks. And the whole production process, as well as the marketing, is under the control of these women, the 120 women. Yeah, so as I said that when we started the campaign, it was more towards the anti-nuclear campaign, but we also started our networks with other spheres of alternatives in environment. But basically, we wanted to also challenge the oil industry and at the same time keeping in mind the government norms and the policies which should not affect our projects anywhere. That's all I have for now, and this is the synergy that I have for the architecture, the resilient communities, the ecological aspects, and also at the same time involving in spiritual teachings. Thank you very much.